Hello and welcome back. This is a new lecture in your course Git and GitHub by Avionics. My name is Ahmed, and in this section we are discussing the GitHub in a little more detail, and specifically we are discussing the hub command line tool used to work with the GitHub application. Now, before we delve into how hub deals with GitHub, let's have a look at how GitHub handles change requests. And by change requests, we mean suggesting new changes to a repository that is hosted on GitHub. When working with local repositories, you learn that you can create branches for feature development or bug fixing. Later on, this branch can be merged to the master branch after being reviewed. This is the case when you're working locally with your fellow developers on the same team locally without hosting your application or without hosting your project on GitHub. And even if you are hosting it on GitHub, as long as you're working inside your team, you can always make changes, always make new features, and then merge them back if you have the appropriate access to the master branch, whether it was you or one of your fellow developers. But say that your project has gone very popular, like for example jQuery. It's a very popular project, and more developers around the world want to contribute to this project, want to add new features, want to suggest bug fixes, want to make their own comments, their own improvements, and so on. Now, developers around the world that want to contribute to your project will be one of two categories. Those who belong to the original team that is actively working on the project, or other people from outside the team who want to be part of the project development. For example, a bug may be spotted on a new cool feature was developed by someone from outside the team. To organize workflow for such changes and to avoid giving a lot of people right access to commit changes on the master branch, GitHub provides pull requests and forking, and let's see the difference between both of them next. Now, back to our example. Let's say that a developer from the team discovered a serious bug that needs to be fixed in jQuery, for example, or in the project that you have hosted on GitHub. Unfortunately, this developer does not have the right to commit a change directly to the main branch or to the master branch. The solution is to open a PR or a pull request on GitHub. A pull request is just another branch, but people are allowed to make comments, collaborate to that branch by making more comments, and so on. It's just another branch. You deal with it the same way you deal with any other branch in Git. However, GitHub adds some more features to this branch because GitHub is all about collaboration around the world. So it allows people to make comments, to view the changes, to review those changes, suggest more and more changes, or to edit the previous changes that have been made on that branch, and possibly make new comments to that branch. And when the PR reaches a point where it can be committed to the master branch, a developer with right access can merge it to the master branch. So let's say that we have a project that is very popular, and somebody from the project team, which is a huge team, it has a lot of people, and of course not all those people can be granted write access or can be granted commit access to the master branch for obvious reasons. Now, one of those developers has discovered that there's a bug or there is an improvement that needs to be made on this GitHub project. He or she submits a PR or a pull request. This PR gets reviewed by the project team, those who have write access to the project, and also by other people who do not necessarily have write access or do not necessarily have commit access to the project, but they can add their own valuable additions to this PR. They can add their comments, they can add their valuable input, and then at the end, when this PR reaches a point where this change is mature enough to be incorporated into the master branch, those who have the right access, obviously the project owners or those who manage the commits to the master branch, can take the decision to merge this branch to the master branch. This is how things work in large projects like Bootstrap or jQuery or any other open source project that is very popular on GitHub. However, in some other cases, somebody who is not part of the development team spots a bug or needs to add an improvement or an addition to the project. This developer can still contribute to the project by issuing what's called a fork request. A fork request is basically creating a new repository on the developer's own GitHub account with a copy of the project that he or she wants to contribute to. Now, whenever any changes are made to this forked version of the project, it will be committed to that local version, and ultimately the developer can issue a PR or a pull request to be reviewed by the project team and eventually decide whether to merge it to the master branch or not. So what's the difference between a pull request and forking? Actually, they are two different things. When you make a pull request, you are actively suggesting a change or an addition to be made to a project. However, on the other hand, when you make a fork request, you are just taking a local copy of this project and you are saving it to your own GitHub account. So let's say that you have a GitHub account under the account of John Doe, and you want to contribute to the project that is called jQuery. You can have a local copy of jQuery, all the source files of jQuery transferred to your GitHub account under the name of John Doe, and you are free to make whatever changes you want to this project and test it however you want, make whatever changes, whatever branches you create and so on, until you reach the point that you think that this project has enough additions that needs to be added to the main project, to the main jQuery project. So essentially, you can make a pull request out of this forked version of the project to the GitHub main jQuery repository. Now, the developers who are behind jQuery will receive your pull request on their GitHub account, and again, it will be open for comments from all the people, whether inside the project or outside it, to make their own additions, to review your changes, and then hopefully at the end, your changes will be reviewed by the project team, those who have right access to the project, and if they decide to, they will merge those changes to the project. This is how open source projects get developed on GitHub. This is how open source projects get enhanced, and this is the essence of the open source methodology, which is that more and more developers from around the world share their thoughts, share their additions, share their effort to create something that is much more enhanced, much more mature than when just a small or a few number of developers are working in a closed environment on their own. Now, in the next lecture, we are going to build a lab where we are going to create a pull request using the command line tool that we have just installed in the previous lecture, Hub. So stay tuned.